The Marvels is coming out this year, and it's probably the Marvel Studios project that I'm most hyped for. I enjoy the character of Captain Marvel. I think Carol in concept could be very interesting. I say in concept because I feel like in execution, they haven't really been able to do her justice. Like, they've done her okay, but they should do her better. For the most part, I do find myself enjoying the character of Captain Marvel, as I said. In Endgame, they really couldn't figure out what to do with her, which I think is fair because at that point, the script for her own movie wasn't even finished yet. So they just shipped her off planet for most of the film. Granted, I feel like for how little time she got, she did make the most out of that time. I really enjoyed how she was used in that movie. And I watched Endgame opening day, and when we got to that part at the beginning where Carol was setting off and the Avengers were like, "Where are you going?" And she was like, "To kill Thanos."
Where are you going?
To kill Thanos.
I swear, literally, the whole audience at the theater, audible gasps, everyone was just like 30-year-old nerds were clutching their pearls in awe of this character. And I was like, yes, yes, Carol, do your thing. I was so hyped. I was like, yes, she's gonna lead the Avengers. And the rest of the movie came and she was barely in it. And she also got that really bad wig that reminded me of Leslie Knope. I mean, can they find a better wig? That wig, though, I feel like is an excellent metaphor for what they've done with Carol throughout these movies. The concept's there. It's a great concept. But the execution is just awkward. But anyway, moving forward, I really enjoyed Monica in WandaVision, and I'm really excited to see more of her. I think her actress is really great in the role. Same with Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel, I feel like they could have done better with her series, the way they handled her series, but I really like Iman in the role, and I'm just excited to see more of her. So knowing that these three women are going to star together in an action blockbuster this year, I couldn't be more hyped. But I'm also kind of wary. So I want to talk about Captain Marvel this time because I was so hyped to watch it, but when I actually did at the theater for the first time, I was so bored. I mean, the only reason that I was able to stay awake was because I was determined to like it, but I did not. I do now, but when I first watched it, I couldn't like it. I couldn't dislike it. I was just disappointed by it. Enough time's passed, and I've since rewatched Captain Marvel, and as I said, I like it. I just think that it has problems, and I want to get into it. This is in hopes that they avoid these problems for the Marvels, because I'm a huge fan of these three characters, and I really want them to have a great movie. You guys, is that too much to ask for? The most glaring issue about the movie is the fact that the script has so little in it to make you care about or root for. There is barely any conflict carrying meaningful stakes that meets Carol in this movie. Maybe there is, but it's just not communicated to the audience very well. I mean, I would say that the lives of the Skrulls are a meaningful stake, but I don't think the film thinks that, because it really doesn't invest a lot into making you root for or care about the Skrulls. Anyway, there are barely any stakes, and I've identified a few reasons that may have contributed into why that is. One of them is the fact that nobody in this movie could have realistically believably died. Life and death is like one of the most basic stakes that you can have in your story. Most times conflict in stories have their stakes rooted in whether or not lives could be lost. Titanic had Jack and Rose and whether or not they could survive the sinking ship. Terminator had Sarah Connor and Kyla Reese and whether or not they could kill the Terminator or be killed by it. There was no one in this movie whose life could have been convincingly endangered to be had as a believable stake. I mean, let's go through the characters one by one. Carol obviously wasn't going to be in danger because she's set to appear in future movies. Fury, nah, because this is his younger self and we've met his older self. None of the Kree felt relevant enough, and same with the Skrulls. They didn't really feel important enough to be had as stakes. Well, the Skrulls do. They become the main stakes later in the movie. Later in the final act of the movie, and by that point, so much of the audience is just checked out, wondering what to care about. The lives of the entire human race living on Earth could have been had as like the stakes, but again, because this is in the 90s and we've already seen the MCU in like present day, that really couldn't be a stake because we already know Earth makes it out alive through the story. To be fair, the uncertainty of whether or not a character can live or die isn't the strictest measure of stakes. There are plenty examples of media where the characters are pretty much guaranteed to live but are still very exciting. When I watched the first Hunger Games movie, I knew there would be a second movie, but I still felt the thrill and the excitement of watching Katniss fight because she still felt like she was in danger. A better film will still have you excited even when the character is not dying as a foregone conclusion. But this isn't a better film. Most of the set pieces are not exciting, and they're all made less exciting by the fact that no one could die. Nobody could be in danger. Except Maria and Monica Rambeau. And that was a potential stake I think that the movie just wasn't able to explore. How could that have been explored? We'll get back to that and first talk about another reason why I feel the movie struggled with stakes. And that's because Carol is so incredibly powerful. Now that's not inherently bad. In fact, I think it could be a great excuse to get creative. You have a main character that's so powerful and is basically unkillable. So her life's not at stake. What do you do when your main character's life can't be believably at stake? Well, you give the audience another person to care for or worry about. If Superman can't die, then give him a Lois Lane whose life we could put in danger. This makes me sound like a psychopath. But yeah, if you have a Superman, give him a Lois Lane. Not necessarily a love interest, but someone close to them that we could worry about, believably. If you write it well enough, once you put Lois Lane in danger, then the audience is gonna worry about Lois's life. And once they see Superman worrying about Lois, they too then can empathize with Superman. So it's efficient. You're doing two things at once. You're letting the audience worry about a character in the story, and then you're also letting them empathize with another character. Carol here's her Superman, and Maria could have been her Lois, who's in danger. Now imagine this. What if Carol woke up from Skrull captivity, in the beginning of that film, in that ship, and also captured in that ship was Maria Rambeau? What if they were both there? Hear me out. Maria also knew Marvel, so it's possible that the Skrulls would also want her to take her memories. Then let's add more drama. Let's say that Carol's only surviving the memory extraction process because she's enhanced. And if Monica's put through that process because she's a normal human, she will die. Carol doesn't want that. She's a good person and she's our hero. And somehow, even though Maria is kind of unfamiliar to her, there's a part of her that wants to save Maria. So they bust out of there, escape from the Skrull ship, and crash land on Earth. So we have the story with Carol, who's an overpowered, invincible hero, and then we have someone to worry about, Maria, because she's a normal human being, and as badass as she can be, the Skrulls can really kill her. And when they get to Earth, what if the Skrulls know about Monica, Maria's daughter? So Carol and Maria have to get Monica too. Now we have a story with our hero, Captain Marvel, protecting the mother and daughter, Maria and Monica Rambeau, from alien Skrulls that want to extract their memory and kill them. So they run around America in the 90s, unsure of who they can trust because the Skrulls can shapeshift, and unsure if they can even trust each other because Carol doesn't have her memories, and for Maria, this is her friend who apparently died 6 years ago. That feels like a setup with more stakes attached to it than what we got with the movie. I mean, the movie itself is still full of conflict and it still has stakes. It's just not delivered very well. So they don't even have to go with this idea. They can just take the ideas that they already have in the film and just execute it better. Another reason why I also think they suffered with the stakes in the movie is because of the Skrull Kree twist. Let's take a look at the train scene in this movie. Carol's chasing a Skrull and they end up on a train and fight with civilians around. Story-wise, we don't have any clear indication of what the stakes are. In Infinity War, there's a fight with Vision, Scarlet Witch, and the Black Order. You don't want the Black Order to get the Infinity Stone because Vision will die and Thanos will get the Infinity Stone. And in a broad sense, for the movie, you don't want Thanos to get the Infinity Stones because the opening of the movie literally has him kill the Asgardians, including Heimdall, including Loki, beat up the Hulk, and attempt to kill Thor. You know this guy's evil. The film shows you he is, so you're rooting against him. In this train scene, and even in the scene before with Carol on the ship fighting the Skrulls, you just have no idea why you should care. So what if Carol doesn't escape the ship full of Skrulls? What's gonna happen? She's gonna die? Why would that be bad? And in this train scene, so what if the Skrull escapes? What will I lose? Why should I care? They couldn't establish why we should root against the Skrulls because of the twist that the Skrulls are actually not bad but are refugees. And I'm not against that twist. I think the story element of having the Skrulls as refugees is actually good. I am just saying that hindered them from showing us that we should root against the Skrulls because we shouldn't. But even with that twist in mind, looking through the fight scene at the train, it could have been so much more exciting if the Skrull was, throwing people out of the train? Hear me out. It kind of makes me sound like a psychopath, but hear me out. This is a refugee Skrull. He's running away from a super cop from the people that's trying to wipe out his whole race. In his desperate attempt to get away, he'd probably do anything he can to slow down that super cop. He'd probably just start tossing humans out of the train, and then our hero, Carol, would go ahead and try to save those people. It'd be an exciting, fun scene. I would have added human lives as kind of like tiny stakes in the fight, and it would have made it at least a little more exciting. But instead, they made the bizarre choice of having people restrain Carol through the fight, which, yeah, is realistic. The Skrull is disguised as an old lady, so Carol's just looking like this unhinged person trying to beat up a grandma. But the choice to have the public restrain Carol just stopped the fight from escalating and becoming more exciting and thrilling. You know, fight scenes have their rhythm and their flow, and the crowd constantly stopping Carol kind of just stopped that. And yeah, I guess Carol beating up an old lady is kind of funny, but it's not that funny. Definitely not engaging enough to make a whole scene out of it. And I just want to clarify, fight scenes don't always have to have stakes to be fun. They can just be exciting, thrilling, visual spectacles. But this train scene is just not that. At the climax of the movie, Carol's fighting against her old Kree team, and you know she's gonna win. She's not in danger at that point. But it's so fun to watch. It's really well made, the music's great, and it's fun. Where was that energy for the train scene? And this is the climax of the movie. Why did it take so long for the action in this film to be fun? Maria Rambeau flying that plane and outpiloting and killing Minerva? That's iconic. If you open up a dictionary, look up the word iconic, this is the scene there. But yeah, back to the choice of having a twist in the movie, because that really hindered them from giving us any clear stakes, which is kind of sad, because that twist wasn't even really that good. When it happens, you're kind of just like, oh, okay, well yeah. Makes sense. I mean, did anyone really believe that Jude Law would be the good guy in this movie? This could have been a great twist. It's a great concept, but again, the execution is just so fumbled. I mean, once the twist is over and you finally have the reveal that the Kree and the Skrulls are at war and the Kree's trying to wipe out all the Skrulls and the Skrulls are refugees, you now have a clear idea of what to root for and what we're fighting for. We're fighting to protect Skrull lives, saving them from the Kree's attempts and wiping them all out, which is why I love the latter half of the film more than the first. That scene where Yon-Rog's meeting up with a Skrull pretending to be Carol, it's just so brilliant because at that point you already know that Yon-Rog is kind of the bad guy and you're afraid because you want the Skrull to survive. You're rooting for him. You want him to make it out. He doesn't. Just sad. And that's great that it's sad because we want the audience to feel for our story. Near the end, they make it to Mar-Vell's lab and there's literally children. And that's the lives we're saving. That's what's at stake. And that's why I think the climax of the movie is really great. You know what you're fighting for. There's even that scene where Talos gets shot at the end of the movie and that scared me because now you're like rooting for him, you want him to make it out alive. They kept him alive, but pretty sure in the original script they probably had him die. It would have made the film stronger if he did, but I think Marvel saw his performance in this movie and realized that they really want to keep him around. I think they decided they'd be wasting the actor if his character died in this film. Anyway, I love the idea of the Skrulls just wanting to get away and just wanting to find refuge from the Kree, but I just wish they did it better. The energy that they had for the latter half of the film after the reveal, where was that for the first half of the movie? Especially because the beginning's so dull and you kind of have no idea what we're supposed to root for or be concerned about. A lot of people just checked out emotionally before we got to the better parts. I hope this video helped you understand how important stakes are in stories, and I really hope the Mar-Vells doesn't run into this kind of problem. But not having clear stakes wasn't the only problem that this movie had. I don't know, it feels like somehow in a lot of times they managed to make a lot of boring choices. I've read some of the rumors about the Mar-Vells, and I'm kind of excited because I don't know if I'm gonna like the movie or not. I don't know if it's gonna be good or bad, but based on those rumors, I think at the very least, it's not gonna be boring. I wouldn't say Captain Marvel's a bad movie, but it's not a very good one either. At least not the first half. I was bored when I watched it first, but by rewatch, I actually had more fun with it. I think having the stakes so vague at the beginning of the movie caused a lot of people to check out emotionally by the time we got to the good parts. And my next video is probably gonna talk about the best things that I liked from Captain Marvel, because I do like that movie. Again, it just has problems. Thanks for watching this video, and if you liked it, please hit that like button, consider subscribing, and leave a comment. What did you think about Captain Marvel? Thanks, and goodbye!